you guys were in the Midwest.
Yes, yes.
They used to call it the Black and Blue Division of basketball.
Oh yeah, because Detroit was in there, Cleveland was in there, Minnesota hadn't come into the league yet, and Milwaukee and that Midwest was a hard hat area. You know, meat and potatoes. You know, nothing petite. It wasn't petite to do healthy drinks and all that like it was in California. You know.
Yeah, right. So you were on the 74 team, right? I don't know if you talked about it. And you played the Celtics?
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
If we had lost Lucius Allen and John McLaughlin. McLaughlin was out because of an injury. And one thing Oscar Robertson says to this day is if we had McLaughlin, we would have won in 74. We went to beg your pardon?
You had the best record that year.
Yeah, we had the best record, and we went to Game 7, and we played Boston and Milwaukee. And when I see Dave Cowens today, I said he should have been arrested because of the number of fouls they let him get away with against Kareem.
Right.
But that particular series left an indelible mark on me as far as my career because, you know, I said then that I never wanted to go 7 games again and lose in the 7th game because, you know, it was painful all summer to think that, you know, I was constantly looking for, well, was there a loose ball or was there a missed rebound or did a guy score on me at a critical point? And, you know, although we lost that series, that further shaped what it was like to be a professional player. And it shaped my mindset in terms of preparation, in terms of going into a playoff series.
What was it like to play against Havlicek? Because I used to love him. He's a great player.
I mean, I learned so many lessons from John. And when I talk about the toughest guys I had to play against, it's probably a guy like Bob Love, Bob Love, Rick Barry, but at the top of that list was John Havlicek.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability to play and to not get tired or
never get tired,
or you never saw him sweat. He said
no.
he wouldn't show it until he got in the huddle with his teammates, and then he would bend over and hold his knees. But John was a fierce competitor, and gentleman is not. He was a true sportsman.
Yeah,
always played with great sportsmanship. Had a lot of little tricks with him. He could hold you, and by the time the official turned around, you would end up holding him to defend yourself.
You get the foul.
Yeah, and then I would get the foul. But after John left, then I began to use those on guys like Walter Davis, Marcus Johnson, and the young guys that came in the league, Campbell Russell. So I used John's tricks. And those tricks that he used were a form of entitlement. If you play long enough, the officials began to give the veteran the benefit of the doubt.
That's still like that to this day. Just ask LeBron.
Still like that. Still like that.
He wasn't just a sportsman. He was clearly also a magician.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, he was. John was a true competitor.
You know what? Growing up, I was a Boston fan. I was the only one of everybody was a Knicks fan. you know, because we're from New Jersey, and my whole family, even Tony was. And the year before, because you were talking about, you know, 74, what we didn't do right. The year before, Boston had the same problem because they were 68-14, and they were the best team on earth that year, and they did not win it. The Knicks took it, and the Knicks beat them, and Boston had like a 20-point lead in the second half. The ref just started blowing the whistle and went double overtime. Boston ended up losing in Game 7 at home. So, so that was tough. So in a way, it was kind of their way of saying we were so great, we proved it. You know, we won that the next year, and then they won 2 years later again. So they beat Phoenix. But I mean, I understand all that. I mean, I remember all that. You think all these guys that you played can play now, or a lot of them?
Oh yes.
Everybody says no. It's so ridiculous.
I mean,
I was going to ask that exact question. 25-year-old you, Bob, can you play now? You play in this era?
Surely, because you know, you adapt. You know, a guy doesn't get to be a professional basketball player if he doesn't have the ability to adapt. Right. You know, you shoot the threes now. Well, these guys that shooting the threes, they at 10 years old were shooting the threes.
Right.
And so it's just a matter of adapting to the game. I think back in my day, I think the guys were maybe just a little bit headier about the game. You know, we were taught differently.
Right.
And nowadays a guy can work for Federal Express or be a business executive and be a coach. Right. But back in the day, you had to have been in a sport and played it yourself to be a coach. I mean, you just couldn't, and then you had to be a part of the school system, right, to be a coach. So therefore, that education and athletics were blended in, and so I think we were taught the game from a physical and a mental aspect of the game.
Yeah.
And back then, it was a passion. You know, you really didn't, although we didn't make a lot of money compared to what the modern day athletes make, but what we were paid was more than what a school teacher was making. So everything was sort of comparative, you know, apples for oranges and stuff like that. But I think we were probably, you know, but I'm amazed that at the pick and roll, how today's pick and roll of how well these guys can thread that needle on a pass. And, you know, guys these days have great skills, passing. They probably handle the ball a lot better than we did, but every era comes with its own specialties.
Right. Do you think that the guys in the 70s were just as athletic, or can stay with these guys who they all say they're more athletic now? But you think they could stay with them? I do.
Well, as if we could hand check them the way we did back in the day, that would null and void it. But remember too, a lot of the game has been dictated by the rules, because the rules are vastly different now in terms of the way you defend a guy.
Right.
You know, you
said it. I think Junior said it. Yep, Junior Bridgman was on. He said it.
Said, what did he say about?
Said that the hand check, things would be a lot different.
Oh yeah, because you know, a guy like Jerry West, Havlicek, Elgin Baylor, Dave DeBusschere, Gus Johnson, they could basically steer you where they wanted you to go. And if you got a half a step on a guy, every team had a shot blocker
Yeah.
to prevent you from getting to the basket.
Right. That's right. Everybody had a center. They played down low. What do you think about all this 3-point craziness, a 5-on-1 fast break, and 3 of the guys pull up from 3? What's that about?
well,
What happens? We bench, right? We're benched.
That's how the game has evolved. And
I know that's how it's evolved. I just don't think it's evolved the right way. Yeah.
Well, that's the way the rules are. And we sort of go with the rules.
Yeah.
So Bob, what's your predictions for the rest of the playoffs? Who do you see winning these matchups and then winning it all?
Bob?
Two Bobs.
Of course, Milwaukee, especially if Kyrie doesn't come back. You know what? I'm rooting for Atlanta, and Atlanta is one of those teams that has quite a few young, good players. I didn't realize that Trae Young was as great as he is.
Neither did my brother. He saw him the first time he saw him. He goes, Bob, I don't know about this guy. I was wrong.
I mean, and with Devin Mitchell,
right,
out in Utah, just a tremendous.
He's good.
I'm just excited about the Clippers in Utah. That's a great series. But I think whoever wins between the Clippers and Utah, I think they're capable of beating the Suns.
Well, wait a minute. If Clippers, they are, but if the Clippers get in it, the Suns have the home court, so that's not going to be easy.
I'm looking at how Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. I just see.
How about Booker?
And Booker is a great player. And of course, Chris Paul. But I just look at the inexperience probably for Phoenix going up against the Clippers. And the Clippers have a debt to pay, because for the last 3 or 4 years they should have been or were considered true candidates to represent the West in the NBA Finals. And I think they are playing with an urgency like I've never seen the Clippers play before. And going into that NBA Finals, a lot of nerves come into play, a lot of intimidation comes into play. The game is going to go up to a physical level, I think, and I don't think really Phoenix is a physical team. I think the Clippers can be a little more physical. But I'm at this point, I'm looking for the Bucks. The Bucks should come out of the East, but I think Game 5 is
tonight
such an important game for them, because they can't afford for Harden to come back in a Game 6, and who's to say what type of night he has, and unless I don't know the severity of Kyrie's injury, they say, so everything is just up in the air. But if I had to pick 2 now, I would probably pick Milwaukee and the Clippers in the finals. And who's to say?
Well, you talked about experience, and you end up going to Washington, and there are plenty of experience. But you were the reason they won, because you know what? They had a great team. They came close in 75. They didn't beat Golden State. They had 60 wins that year. But when you got there, you were the guy that put them over. They should retire your number for that.
Yeah. As with the Hall of Fame, as with the Hall of Fame thing, you know, patience pays off
There
sometime.
you
And
go. Right.
I think the big thing is that it's retired in Milwaukee, you know.
That's,
And
yeah, of course. You played there.
and going to Washington, I didn't know what the expectations were of me. When going to Washington, I went to Washington because it would be closer to my hometown of Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
And I really hadn't thought about a championship going to Washington.
They were good though.
Yeah, until the first, maybe the third day I was in training camp and I twisted my ankle, and the next day Wes Unseld walks past and said, "Oh, you're supposed to be the savior for this season and you
Oh,
are hurt already."
wow.
But that's the
Ouch.
way we could talk to each other and nobody get to crying or be sensitive. And so that let me know that, you know, they were expecting big things out of me.
Sure.
And
I thought you were the right fit for them. That's all they needed. Was
oh
another
yeah.
forward.
And you know, every player dreams of having his own team.
Right.
And that's what Washington afforded me the opportunity to do.